Hello everyone, 4X here. I'm very glad to see you today. And today I have prepared another mission. It's time for another episode of Let's Make for Arma 3, where I make missions on camera and explain to you how missions are made and how to even approach this very complex and difficult task of creating missions for other people. So today, as you can see in the title, we have a very interesting concept that we are going to be trying to create here. Five Nights at Freddy's in Arma 3 engine. It is not the simplest task. Of course, we have to mind many different limitations and obstructions in the way, and I hope that you aren't expecting a full clone or a total replication of the original game. Of course, that is not my intent. I was more than that trying to capture the basic essence and the fundamental ideas of the original game and recreate them in the Arma world and see how that goes. Of course, my main focus will be the mechanics of the original game, so that you can see how that is created with scripting language of Arma, and maybe one of you will see enough potential in this concept and you will actually recreate this into a full actual mission, and that would be really excellent. Of course, the mission is available to download down below the video. You can download and edit it without any copyright or giving any credits. Feel free to do whatever you want with the mission. Today we are going to be making sort of the first half. It's gonna be a lot of talking, not a lot of actually doing something. So if you want, stick around. If you don't, you're gonna have to wait for the second part. Today we are gonna be mostly focusing on how to actually approach such a mission and what to do when deciding how to create a mission, sort of the first ideas and how to actually create them into scripts and such. And the second part, that's gonna be more on the side of creating things, and I'm gonna be polishing things up and actually finishing this mission. So today, what you're gonna get is the basic framework for the mission, which is sort of just the mechanics of the actual mission. Everything kind of works, but it doesn't look like much at all. And what you can see on the screen right here is what the mission is about in Eden Editor right now. So it's kind of just a bunch of dudes in virtual reality with really nothing interesting around them. And that's what I'm offering you right now. Just the basic idea of the mission. Just the scripts, it works. And I'm going to show you how the mission works in a couple of minutes. And next time I'm gonna add like different buildings and I'm gonna switch the time to night, so it's actually kind of scary, but not really. And if you want, you can of course add your own scary animatronics to the game. I'm gonna leave that to you. Of course, my main focus is always explain to you how to kind of structure the mission and not really playing with the tiniest details. That's what everybody can do in their spare time. So, for those of you who aren't very familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's games, it was a very famous series on the internet in the last year. They were kind of all over YouTube. So there was a big chance that many of you have seen this game or any game of the franchise. And it's a kind of a horror jump scary game, I would say. I haven't really played them. I just saw many people playing them, so I'm kind of familiar with the game, but not really. And the main story of the game is that you are some night shift worker in a pizza restaurant that has several animatronics, and these animatronics kinda roam free around the restaurant at night, and you are in your office watching security cameras that are placed all over the restaurant, and you can see that these animatronics kind of get closer and closer to you until they jump right in front of your face and supposedly kill you as well. So it's kind of a waiting horror game where you are waiting what's gonna happen most of the time. But it has very interesting mechanics that kind of increase the tension, and I just wanted to see how such a thing would look like in Arma's SQF language. So there are several basic mechanics that I wanted to recreate. The first and most important one of them is, of course, the animatronics themselves. So as you can see on the screen, I have two animatronics. The work names are Bonnie and Freddy. Of course, you can rename them to any other thing, and I won't be changing the actual models. They are just gonna be two soldiers, because I don't really care how the models look like. You can always change that with a mod or with just a texture or anything that you wish to add, but I want the mechanics to work, so I'm just using two basic soldiers. They can be replaced for any other entity, and what I need to do with them is that I need to have them move around the place. I need them to occasionally attack. I need them to stay off until the time is correct. I need them to check where the players are looking so that they don't shift off camera view when they are on the player's screen, because that's not what happens usually in the original game either. So there are a couple of variables that I need them to control, and of course the movement itself is also related to the fact that I need to define some rooms where they can be, where they cannot be, and if you see these game logics, they are the indicators of the room's positions. So I have 6 rooms defined for 2 animatronics, and the 7th room for the player himself. That's gonna be his office kinda. The next thing that I need to check for are the cameras. So I also need to create some player's camera system, which he will use to actually watch the entire place. He will not be able to move, or at least, well, not in the original one. We can restrict his movement over here as well if you wish. So the cameras will be used to kind of watch the situation. On the other hand, the cameras also deplete the building's energy, and that will decrease with time. So the player has to be wary about what he does in the game, and he cannot really waste all that energy that is given to him, because he needs to last through the entire night with some energy left. And the last thing that we need to check here are the lights, because each camera has also the possibility to turn on a light or a flashlight so that you can actually see what is going on in the room, and you have a better view of the animatronics, because often you don't really have to see them in the night or in the corner. So it's a good thing to always flash a light as well. Now that's gonna be difficult to demonstrate over here because we are playing in pure daylight, but I can change that in the final testing to night or evening at least, and show you that the lights work as well. Now the mission, as you can already imagine, is pretty complex by itself, and we don't really have much. We have just these basic mechanics, and it's already some 10 scripts or so. They need to take care of whatever happens in the game. So whenever I have this kind of more complicated mission, I usually try to divide it into different states that can happen, and then work with the variables and kind of differentiate which state can happen at which moment, and make the mission around that. Of course, it takes a lot of time, and I'm not saying that whatever I'm gonna show you here right now is my initial idea. Of course, that keeps evolving and changing constantly. But it's always a good idea, at least for me it is, to kind of sit down at the start of any creation and just think about what I want to achieve and how the mission really is constructed. like over here, I have a very clear idea that I'm gonna be using several animatronics. So I'll need to define some sort of rooms for each animatronic individually. I'll need to define some paths for them to take. I'll need to define some cameras in each room. And yes, it may seem pretty obvious at first, but when we get to the actual scripts, I assure you that taking some time to think about a mission is a really good idea. But without further ado, let's take a look at some of these scripts. I'm not gonna go through them in a great detail. You can do that on your own time, but I'm gonna just briefly mention what is important about these scripts, and I'm gonna also try to talk a bit more about how to actually structure such mission. So now that you are familiar with these mechanics that we have over here, I believe that you will understand the scripts much better. Okay, so as you can see, we have quite a number of different scripts over here prepared for us. So I'm just gonna blaze through them very quickly. In the init.sqf, I mostly try to keep most of the global variables for the entire mission. So these are things that don't change throughout the mission, and we just play with them. We use them in different scripts, and we need them open and ready to use in the entire mission. So we have some numbers, some boolean values, some time values, and some position values and arrays. And we are using all of these types of variables to kind of control the entire mission. Now, of course, because we don't really have the option to use object-oriented programming in SQF, that doesn't really exist in Arma. So we kind of have to mimic that with many variables, with different stages and in different loops used for kind of dividing the code. It's not a massive problem for us because Arma makes it quite simple for us to actually control the entire mission. So I have some indications for individual rooms. So you can see that, for example, Freddy starts in room numbered with number 6, and he has 6 other rooms that he can move to numbered 5 to 0. Bonnie starts in room number 5, and he can move to any other room with the exception of room number 1. So Bonnie takes slightly different path, and he goes from room number 2 to the player's office, which is room number 0, straight away, and he doesn't use the room number 1. So that's a little bit of an indication for how you can slightly change, just by one number you can change the script, and suddenly the animatronics takes a different path and you have a slightly different approach, and the player needs to mind 2 rooms at once. He has to make sure that he is controlling both rooms number 1 and room number 2. Next, we have some stamps that tell us if Freddy can move, if Bonnie can move, where they have been seen, if they have been seen, if we have closed the doors or not. These are just simple values, because really what I need to control about the doors, just 2 things, if they are closed or if they are open. So if I only have 2 states for the door, I can just assign a variable door number 1 and set it to a boolean value that can only have 2 states, and if I switch between them, I can easily always say whether a door is closed or open. So next I have some arrays of positions. So they are sort of the positions for each room, so that Freddy and Bonnie know where to move and where the rooms actually are. And these are, in this case, marked by the logic units that I showed you earlier. You can of course define other positions over here, set them to relative positions, or just hard code some actual positions on the island. I'm gonna leave that to you. In this example, it's gonna be these game logic units that I have defined beforehand in the Eden editor. Next, I'm just defining some light over here. That doesn't really matter because we are gonna be moving that light afterwards. And I'm launching a script called start game. And start game is kind of the main handler for the main game and for most of the mechanics. So as you can see, start game.sqf, I'm just displaying a short hint. so that the player knows how to play the game. If you want, you can of course replace this with the usual phone call at the start of each night from the original game, or record your own, or do something similar to me. I didn't really want to bother with a phone call or any recordings, so I just placed a hint that needs to be confirmed with clicking enter, so it gives player some time to read the hint, and at the same time it forces him to pay at least minimal amount of attention to the mission. And next, I'm just calling other scripts. And this is really all I need to do, because in this script I'm easily controlling whatever happens in the mission. So as you can see, at the start I'm calling a script keys.sqf, and then that one checks for player's keyboard and his input, which we will control later. I also am calling energy.sqf, and that manages the entire energy consumption and of course supply. And next I'm calling two scripts. Well, one script really 2 times with different parameters, once for Bonnie and once for Freddy. As you can see, the code for Bonnie is actually commented out, so when I'm trying the mission out, I'm only testing it with one animatronic and not 2. And by just commenting out these few lines, I'm making sure that one entire section of a mission doesn't work. And that is excellent practice for testing out different parts of a mission, because a mission is just a collection of individual scripts or things that work. So you try to work on something, then you make it work, and then implement it into a mission, and then just build it out of these little individual blocks. And in this case, when we are having so many scripts and we are expecting to add more in the future, it's a great idea to kind of have a bigger place where we can check for individual scripts, and each script over here is taking care of one thing at a time. So we don't have just like one giant script that would try to control everything. That would be extremely difficult to implement. At the same time, we don't have 100 different little scripts that we don't really know what they do or how they are called. We just have a couple of scripts, one for each thing that we need to take care of, and each of these little segments of the mission gets called in another script that is called start game. So whenever I return back to this mission, and it has happened in the past, believe me, I'm actually recording this like 2 or 3 weeks after I made this mission, so I wasn't really sure at the start what the mission was kind of about. But whenever I return back to the mission and I want to continue developing the code, I just look at the startgame.sqf, and it's kind of clear at the first sight. I can already see, okay, so I have several segments over here that are called individually, and I can look into the individual scripts now and see what they do and easily control them from this one place. Anyway, we are gonna move to animatronics.sqf. This is a little bit of a complicated script. It is taking a number of variables over here and it is checking for them. So the basic idea, I'm not gonna explain each line individually. The basic idea of this script is that it asks for 2 things: where an animatronic is currently and how much time has passed since he's been last seen by the player. And I'm gonna working with this idea that animatronics that haven't been seen by the player grow more restless and angry, so there is a high chance that they will actually want to attack the player. And if they have been seen, they will kind of just wander around randomly and they are sort of more safe. So the player has to periodically check for each animatronic and actually find them in the building, otherwise there is a high chance that the animatronic will actually come to the office and kill the player. So that's why I'm checking for some time stamps over here, and based on that and based on where the animatronic actually is, I'm deciding on another move for that selected animatronic. There are 3 ways for the animatronic to move. There is the random movement, which is just randomly choosing one of the rooms that are nearby and going into them. It can potentially kill the player as well, that they will actually get to the player's office by this method, but it is quite unlikely and it is considered pretty safe. Next we have defensive movement, which is just sort of going away from the player's office, and that usually happens when the animatronic has been seen recently and he is quite close to the player's office. So he shouldn't really just go for it despite being seen on camera. So that's why I'm sort of trying to keep the animatronics at bay, and when they are very near the player's office in the nearby rooms 1 and 2, they sort of mostly they go away if they aren't really attacking. And next we have the attack move, and that's just the animatronic just goes towards the player until he's either seen on the camera or he appears in the office itself. So next we have 2 scripts for Freddy and Bonnie. So each one has their own script, and these scripts take care of the room layout for each animatronic, because each one of them has different paths to take. I decided to keep the rooms very simple, and if you could see in the ini.sqf, I just have a very simple array of ordered numbers. There is nothing super complex with this because I wanted to keep this as simple as possible. So Freddy just goes to adjacent rooms. So if he's in room 5, he goes to either 6 or 4 and no other. So there is a very linear path towards the player's office. He eventually has to go to room number 1, and Bonnie has to go to room number 2 to be able to even jump into the player's office. But because this is just a testing thing and not really the entire mission, I decided that it would be much easier for you to understand the code and much easier for me to explain what exactly is happening over here. So this just counts the available rooms for Freddy and Bonnie and picks, and it also informs you about what is happening in the script. As you can see, I have left these hint format commands and these system chat commands so that you can see what exactly is happening. And for example, in this bottom command hint, it tells you exactly what is happening. So Freddy moved to some room number selected as one of the numbers from a selection of rooms. So it tells you exactly where Freddy has moved and why he did that, because he picked it as one of the available rooms for him. If he can get stuck, which is very unlikely, but it may happen in an extreme case, it tells you Freddy can't move, you better do something with this script, because you have found yourself in this particular area of code. That is also extremely helpful for writing scripts. The game can tell you what exactly is happening, what the individual variables are, and what they do for you. So you can sort of segment the code into individual cases. So if, for example, in this case, Freddy can't move, it only happens if the total number of available rooms is equal to 0. So in this case, I can clearly see that there is something wrong with the room selection for my animatronics, and I can easily fix just this little part of the code. Or I can change the selection of available rooms for this case. It is very simple to adjust the scripts when you have them divided in clear logical segments. More on that in some video that I'm gonna eventually make about debugging scripts and writing them in a logical manner. Same thing for Bonnie, only slightly altered because Bonnie has a slightly different path. Next we have cameras. This is also a pretty simple script that only creates a light for a camera when there is no light, or removes the light when there is some light already. So again, just two states, there is light and there isn't light. So either create it or delete it. Next, we are checking if Freddy has been seen on a camera, and we are switching between individual cameras. Again, I decided to keep it extremely simple for you guys, so I'm just switching the camera between individual units. These are like cans of beans or something that are placed on the map. Of course, once you get over here, you are again notified by system chat that you have switched to camera number 1, 2, 3 or any other number, and while you are inside this segment of code, you can do whatever special effects you want. Again, if something very unexpected happens, you can get a system chat error in camera, but because we don't have more than 6 rooms defined, this error will never show up because we have covered all possible cases in our script. Next, we have keys.sqf. This only checks for player's keys on a keyboard that he presses, and it only tracks 2 of them, escape, and escape sort of lets him out of the camera view when he finds himself in there, and space for turning on and off the light or the flashlight on the camera. Energy just tracks the energy. Currently it is pretty strict and pretty fast, but such is the entire game. And rotation, that's just a script for rotating the cameras around. We also have dialog.hpp, where we are creating our custom dialogue, and this is actually one of the most basic ideas that I had, one of the initial ideas. I wanted to make a mission where I would use some dialogues. If you haven't seen the tutorials on them, I recommend you to watch them. Dialogues are pretty interesting, and I wanted to do something with them. So there you go. This is the result of me thinking about using some dialogues in a mission for you. So we are using 6 buttons, and each one signifies one camera room. So just very shortly, these were all the scripts. I don't think that you really want me to go through them. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below, and these are like 95% of the mechanics. As you can see, we are missing the door mechanics. That is gonna come next time when I come back to this mission. But other than that, we have pretty much everything set. Now, 2 more things. Energy. You can see that it is defined as a global variable at the top, and it is set to some value that I have randomly chosen, and it is then reduced by certain amounts. And this is kind of about balancing the mission, which is not really what I've been doing. As well, the second thing is animatronics.sqf. There is a local variable rate, which is also set to a pretty random value, and if by some crazy chance some of you decide to take this mission into editor and actually make something out of it, you should probably focus a bit more on balancing this stuff out and finding different values, because you can easily change the difficulty of the entire mission by just changing this one number ever so slightly. Right now, rate equals to 3 means that an animatronic will move each 3 seconds, and all of his information gets updated every 3 seconds, and that is extremely quick. Let me tell you, the entire mission can end in about 20 seconds, which is just absurdly quick. And if you really want to make the mission more enjoyable and more viable for players to actually play, you should probably change this number to some other value and sort of play with the scripting a little bit more, and mostly with the timing. On the other hand, of course, you also need to change the energy consumption and sort of balance these things out so that the mission is quite hard, but not impossible or unfair. Well, anyway, I think that we should probably see the mission and how it works. I'm gonna explain to you what the individual scripts really do and how you can use the information that they provide to you. See you in the game. Okay, we are playing. There is the initial info. You can see that I have 6 cans over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th one is right over here at on my left hand side. And these cans currently represent individual rooms. So I have room number 6, room number 5, room number 4, 3, 2, and 1. And room number 0 is my office itself. Now the mission is gonna be playing quite fast, so just before we actually start, we are gonna have 2 kinds of information on the screen. We'll have the hint displaying in the upper right hand side and system chat in the down left. And if you wish, you can sort of watch both of them or neither of them. I'm also gonna be commenting on what is happening, and we're gonna be watching this guy on the right, which is Freddy, or it's a guy representing Freddy, and he will be moving in throughout the individual rooms, and he will be eventually trying to attack and kill me. When he gets to my office, he kills me and the mission ends. So we are gonna be watching his movement. It's gonna be telling us where he's moving and what he's thinking and what he's doing. So let's see how it works. So Freddy moved to room number 5 and he's just moving. He moved to number 4, so lucky for him. Number 5 again, and he's selecting always from 2 numbers. And these numbers represent the room, so he's currently in room number 5, 6, and now he's gonna move back to 5 because that's the only one he can choose. And he's just moving, and sooner or later he's gonna start attacking. Now he's at number 3, 4, but I haven't seen him. I haven't even checked the cameras yet. So he tries to attack, he goes for me, room number 1, and now he's gonna kill me. Okay, so that's the mission end. It's currently the only ending that we have. You can of course always set up a simple trigger, count down, whatever you want, and just end the mission by that. If the player survives for long enough, it will end. So that's the good ending that we don't have currently, but it's so easy that I didn't really want to bother with it yet. Let's try it again and see the cameras right now. So I'm gonna click on camera, and now I have this little menu of available cameras, and when I click on some of them, it switches me to that particular camera. Now of course all of these can be manually adjusted to whatever you wish. Now they are just tracking the cans themselves, and they are sort of using them as the point for the camera. So Freddy is just moving. I've seen him quite some times because I can see where he actually is, so I can quickly select that particular room. So he's just moving, he's not willing to attack me, and now I'm gonna jump out of the camera view. You can see that the game registered the game saw my escape button being pressed and successfully exited out of the whole dialogue. Now Freddy tries to attack, so let's quickly jump to the camera. He's in room number 4, so number 3, Freddy's been seen. Now we can just observe the camera number 3, and Freddy actually doesn't move at all, because now he's locked in the room number 3, and until we stop watching, Freddy has to stay here, because in the original game, animatronics don't move when you are looking at them. It doesn't work like that. So while I'm here, Freddy cannot do anything. So we can sort of stay here until I run out of energy, which hopefully happens in a little while. Well, apparently not. I seemingly set it to a higher value. Well, it gives me a great opportunity to actually switch to the night. So we'll switch to like 3 in the night. Okay. And we'll see how the lights work. Now, of course, for each room there is gonna be an individual flashlight that you can switch on and off. And because it may happen in our case that the rooms will be very close together. Of course, in the original game they were just separate images. It didn't matter. The game was created in a completely different scenario. In our case, we are gonna be in the actual world. So it may happen that the rooms will be very close together, and you don't want to see a light from one room shining into another room. So after switching into a different room, we always have to make sure that we get rid of the light. Now, of course, one of the scripts does that as well. You can see that in the scripting. I'm just gonna show you that it actually works. So we'll be checking for the cameras. We already know that the animatronics themselves kind of work. So camera number 3, now let me turn the light on. Bam, registered space, and the light is on. Now if I switch to camera number 2, the light is off again. It disappeared, light moved away. Very important info for me, because I now know that the game actually works. Freddy has been seen. I switched on the space so I can now kind of see him. He's down below me because the camera is on the same place where Freddy is currently. You can of course change that to your liking. So let's jump out of the cameras and see how long it takes Freddy to actually go and kill me. I've seen him a while ago, so it might take him some 20 seconds at this rate to kind of go and attack me. But you can see from the Freddy tries to attack, so he's coming. You can see from the script results that we get on the screen that the mission actually works, and the scripts tell us what is happening at each time. And I think that it is extremely important to have these kind of things when you are creating a mission. Of course, you have to delete them when you are finished with the mission, but when you are creating it and you aren't sure if the script is actually working or not, or what is happening and what it's doing, you can very easily just write the variables on the screen and see how they work, and see if it's a good idea or not to have them in the mission. And you can really quickly and comfortably just control the entire mission just by writing a couple of variables on the screen. Now I'm gonna activate also the bunny, so the second animatronic, so that we can see this in this mission in its full glory. Okay. And this is gonna be the last testing. I mean, there hasn't been much of creating or anything, but I just wanted to explain to you. And I think that I did a really terrible job. I'm probably gonna have to go back to this in another tutorial. That when you get to these sort of more complicated missions than the original ones that we've been creating in the first few videos of the series, you kind of have to start thinking about how the mission is actually structured and what you want to do with it, because it's no longer good to just hop into the editor and start doing stuff just out of the blue. You sort of have to have a little bit of structure behind the mission, and hopefully you've seen some of this thing in this video. And the last few that we've done are heavily focused on the actual coding and on the commands themselves. So this time I wanted to change the format of the video, and I want to tell you about the stuff that kind of can't be really explained, or it can't be taught like the other things. Like, you can of course learn all the commands and all their syntax, but you also have to have this idea about how the mission actually works and how to put these individual commands together into scripts, and then use those scripts in the right moments, and hopefully with enough examples you will kind of understand it more and more. So that's why I'm making these missions, so that you can just see that we are using the same commands over and over that I talk about in the tutorials, but depending on how we use them and when we actually use them, it can greatly affect the entire mission. And with little work in the editor itself, I'm able to create the mission just entirely by just constructing these individual blocks together. Now let's see how it works with two animatronics at the same time. It's extremely quick. Let me remind you that we really don't have a lot of time for both of these things. And Bonnie usually happens to move quite faster. He's more aggressive. You can see that in the log we have Freddy backs off, and that's because he found himself very close to the office and he didn't really want to be there. It was very early after we have started the mission. Bonnie tries to attack, so he's about to kill me. There he is. He's very quick. He can attack from pretty much any room that he wants. So, okay, the mission has ended. Let's jump back to the editor and change the weather. Alright, so next time, I don't know when that's gonna be, 2 or 3 weeks probably, we are gonna finish this mission. I'm gonna add some buildings to this mix. I'm gonna actually place the cameras on some more reasonable positions. I'm gonna show you that it's not entirely impossible to make this into an actual mission that kind of looks alright, if not good. And hopefully some of you will pick this up. For those of you who aren't really interested in that polishing stuff, and I completely understand you in this regard, use this mission instead. This is only the core mechanics of the actual mission, and these can be improved, these can be changed, these can be, you know, built upon. And if you actually make this into some mission of some sorts, of any mission, just let me know, because I would absolutely love to play that. I'm not gonna make this into an actual release, but you can. You have the power, you have the time. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. I hope to see you all in the next one. Comment, like and share, and have a great day.